Greetings everyone and welcome to my YouTube channel. I'm your host Captain Ryan. Today's YouTube video has got me back in a destroyer that I don't take out of my port all too often. Now that's not necessarily because I don't like the ship, in fact I actually like this ship quite a bit, but it's mostly to do with the fact that the ship really isn't able to carry a team, not like the Fletcher anyway, and does require a little extra effort on my part to try and make it work. And that ship, of course, as you can see, is the Z-52 here in World of Warships. As the battle gets underway, it's the Shatter map, it's standard battle mode. And if you're in a destroyer and you're on this map in standard battle mode, it really gets kind of confusing exactly what it is you're supposed to be doing and where you're supposed to be going. The problem with this map is there's a lot of different channels, a lot of different islands to hide behind, go around, and because of these islands, it also means that your cruisers and battleships who are going to be taking other routes are going to be stuck behind them if you push through those channels, and they might end up not really being able to provide assistance and supporting fire. So what exactly do you do if you find yourself in this situation? Where do you go without those cap points to control where the enemy is going to head, where you expect to encounter other enemy destroyers? It can get kind of confusing. The best option is to group up with another destroyer and just generally pay attention to the map. Which way is your fleet going? Yes, you should come out here onto the fringes and the flanks and push up into where the B cap point would normally be, but at the same time, you shouldn't overextend yourself. There's no caps, there's no reason to be this far forward. Now, as I come around the side of this island, I'm spotted by an enemy destroyer, and I pop my smoke screen, and I pop my hydro too, just to make sure that there's no torpedoes headed my direction as I start backing up. The primary disadvantage to the Z-52 is that it doesn't change directions very quickly, and this is just an unfortunate fact of life. So I pop my engine boost consumable to get going the opposite direction a little bit quicker, drop behind that island, because I don't want to be out in the open in my smokescreen if there are torpedoes, and then this allows me to get turned around more effectively. Managed to land several torpedo hits on that Tirpitz in the distance there, which, by the way, those torpedoes were aimed at, and it's always nice to see a Tirpitz sailing in a nice straight line for me. Unfortunately, none of them cause flooding because he was on fire and popped his damage repair ability, which is a little weird, but I guess not entirely, as of course, because he does this, and because his damage control ability was active at the time, it means that none of my torpedoes ended up causing flooding. Now that Tirpitz has disappeared behind the island, and there are a few other ships that are pushing up, if you can see there on the minimap. And I am tempted to go and push around that island to secure the kill on that Tirpitz, but simultaneously I don't want to push up and risk it. I haven't taken any damage yet, and pushing up and risking it might cause some serious problems. Friendly Fletcher has laid a smokescreen for me, so I'm going to go ahead and get into that and use that to hide in. Enemy Benson up there having a terrible, terrible time of things as he overextends himself coming through that gap between the islands. And as I mentioned before, that's a serious problem if you're on this map without those caps, because that means the enemy is going to be able to shoot you while your ships are going to be stuck behind an island. Now I'm detected by hydro from this German destroyer here, but you'll notice that I managed to take him out as well. Again, as he comes out from beside the island, he's got himself a serious situation. My hydro is active, and of course it can clearly see all those torpedoes, so I get moving forward there, and I managed to avoid any of those torpedoes, which makes me perfectly happy. And now the enemy team has lost 2 of their destroyers, giving my team a destroyer advantage. Now, our Fletcher has taken a lot of damage, and we'll see him here. He's got 42 hit points left of health. That is definitely not enough to do anything with. Basically, he's at a point where nobody on his crew should sneeze or pass gas. If a bird flew over and took a crap on him, he'd be dead. The splash damage alone would probably kill him. And no, there's no splash damage in the game unless you're talking about capping. Now, I get torpedoes off one set towards that Tirpitz that's behind that island there, and I'm kind of hoping that those torpedoes will hit him as he edges forward past that island. Would make me really happy if he would sail into them, and it kind of looks like he's headed that direction. Come on, can I get him? I don't need to hit him with too many torpedoes in order to finish him off. It looks like maybe I'm going to hit him with 2, yes, and I finish him off for my 3rd kill of the game. And at this point, the enemy team is down 4 ships, while my team has lost none. This puts my team in an extreme points advantage. But remember, this is standard battle mode. That means the enemy team is still going to gain points so long as they have their base unmolested. Same way with my team. So they can just sit back and bide their time looking for targets of opportunity to continue to pick on. One of the things that I like about the Z52 is that it has a fast torpedo reload. While it only gets 8 torpedoes, they're ridiculously quick. I think they're as fast as the Fletcher torpedo reload at Tier 9. Having the fastest Tier 10 torpedo reload is useful in a situation like this, where I find myself on the flank defending against a whole herd of enemies here. This means I've got a target-rich environment, and I can spread my torpedoes around and just continue putting in harassing fire. I pop my engine boost consumable, and this time I'm going to head towards where the B cap point would be. And I'm going to push down through this central channel here, and maybe see what I can see hiding behind that island, because I do know that there are some ships that are back down here. And if I can get myself into a reasonable position to spot those ships, hopefully the battleships that are back behind here who are in a position might be able to take shots at these guys and put some serious hurt on them. So as I push up here, I do spot my first would-be victim here. He is behind the island here. My torpedoes are back up. Again, the beauty of having an incredibly fast torpedo reload. I don't decide to continue pushing through that island. I'm not going to make the same mistake that the Benson made here, which was to push through the island and end up isolated and separated from the enemy, from your friendly ships against an enemy force. Now, those torpedoes look like they're pretty good, but I'm not going to stick around out in the open to see whether or not they hit anything. As the Cyclone gets going here, that's going to drop the visibility down to 8 kilometers. If you are in a destroyer, that's actually a pretty damn good thing to have happen. Of course, if you're in anything other than a destroyer, getting that 8-kilometer detection range, kind of a bit of an annoyance. But depending on how the enemy team is playing, it can shift the tide of the battle. Now, I do manage to land 6 of my 8 torpedoes, and I have a sneaking suspicion if I had landed just one more or all of them on that enemy battleship, I would have managed to sink him outright with a devastating strike, but unfortunately didn't quite land enough torpedoes. A little disappointed that I didn't land and get that kill, but just, I mean, I hit him with 6 of those torpedoes and caused some serious damage. But of course, he is now well and truly away behind those islands, out of range, maneuvering hard, and unfortunately for me, that means I'm not going to be able to secure the kill on him. And of course, he's also going to be able to recover some of that HP. Now, as I push up to where the B cap point would be, I pop my hydro consumable because there are still 2 destroyers in the game, and that's when the enemy destroyer pops up here. He's laid a smokescreen for the friendly Yamato, And we've got a Montana here that is pushing in against him. Now, I'm getting shots off here. I'm trying desperately to kill that destroyer before he can get torps into the Montana there, but it doesn't matter in the long run anyway, as he manages to get taken out. But that Yamato is bow on. He's got a lot of health there. My torpedoes are up, but the Montana has actually pushed in and is now in my way, so I can't torpedo that guy for that Montana. That Montana has decided to take the very honorable route and ram the Yamato. Unfortunately for him, the Yamato has more health than he does and survives the ramming and earns himself a diehard thanks to the Montana. Good job, Montana. You didn't really help in that situation. Honestly, if you're in a battleship and you see this situation, this is where paying attention to what's going on around you is important. Because you had a destroyer just off your port bow. You should have slammed on your brakes, let him cross in front of you, laid down the smoke screen for you, or just crossed in front of you anyway, fired a bunch of torpedoes, and allowed you to continue on your merry way. Because then maybe you would have been able to kill him in that ram because the guy had less health. Now, I'm turning hard and away, and I've got my engine boost up because as I've come around here, an enemy cruiser has popped up, and that's the Hindenburg. And if you've ever played or played against the Hindenburg, you'll know that it has some seriously painful armor piercing and high explosive. Not only that, like the Des Moines, it's got autoloaders, which means it reloads insanely fast. I think it's got 10-second reload time. This means that that ship can put out a ridiculous amount of firepower, 12 shells every 10 seconds. So it can really just rip into you. And with the latest patch out, the German cruiser lines have all gotten a buff to their high explosive. In this ship, the Z-52, and technically all the German destroyers, do not do well against high explosive or armor piercing. These ships just soak up damage like a sponge. My team manages to take out the Yamato. There's still one destroyer left on the enemy team. It is a gearing, but it's not going to be really a big deal as he's isolated and kind of surrounded at this point. He's also down at their base and not really doing too much. But again, you'll notice I'm all alone up here by my base, and I do manage to land a torpedo hit on that Hindenburg as he continues to push up this channel. And I'm staggering my torpedo reloads and torpedo launches to kind of once every 30 seconds or so to ensure that I'm continuously peppering the area. And so long as I have this Hindenburg pushing down this channel, I've kind of got him in a good position to be peppered by my torpedoes, as there's limited room for him to maneuver. Again, though, I want to stay a reasonable distance away. I've got a 6.1 kilometer detection range, but also I don't want to pop my smoke screen and pop my hydro, because that Hindenburg, well, he's got the same hydro I do, which means he's just going to be able to push up, pop his hydro, and instantly detect me. So I pop my smoke screen as a way to create a barrier between him and I as I start running the other direction. And yes, I'm running the other direction rather than sitting in my smoke screen, again, as I mentioned, because of that hydro. But just in case he doesn't have his hydro up, I pop my hydro if he wants to go sit in my smoke screen. I'm also doing that in case he's got torpedoes away. The torpedoes on the Hindenburg are short range by comparison, but they can still cause some serious damage. And yes, sure enough, there are the torpedoes that I suspected he might have launched. Now, that Hindenburg maneuvering hard, so this is going to be a little bit of a difficult thing to do, but you'll notice that he is in the process of capping our base. My team is in the process of capping their base, and as they take out the last enemy ship down there, that just leaves the Hindenburg left against 5 enemies. The problem for him, there are 3 destroyers on the team, 2 of which are currently capping his base. And one of which, myself, is going to prevent him from capping, and has more health than he was probably anticipating. So he's got his armor piercing loaded, and the armor piercing is coming in here. They just barely graze me there, and I'm going to start maneuvering hard, as well as try and get shots off there. Now, fortunately for me, I do set him on fire, so I'm going to continue to cause some significant damage to him, and I'm going to continue resetting the cap. Still taking more shots in there. He's still firing armor piercing. This is pretty good for me as I'm angled away from him. That means that most of his shots aren't going to do nearly as much damage as they could. They're not going to knock out modules like they probably would. So I managed to reset him again, and he's still on fire. But he switched over to the high explosive now, and even angled, that's going to cause problems, of course, as he knocks out my steering. Fire off a set of torpedoes here. Kind of hoping that he'll continue this path, maybe try to kite him into chasing me. But it's not going to matter anyway, as my team manages to cap out the enemy base to secure a victory. So I survive, and I did a good amount of damage in that battle. 175,000 damage done, 3 kills there. My only accolade, though, first blood, that's it. A little disappointed I didn't get to kill that battleship with all those torpedoes, but look at all those torpedo hits. That is certainly a tasty thing to see. Did pretty well there on the XP and credit earn as well. And of course, this kind of result, especially with that high damage, is actually going to make me top of the team for XP earn at 1900 base XP, just shy of 2000. A little disappointed I didn't break the 2000 mark as well. Overall, an incredibly good game in the Z52, and hopefully you learned how to play just any destroyer in general in a standard battle mode. Anyway, that's it for today's video, folks. If you liked the video, hit that like button, hit the subscribe button, and leave a comment down below. If you'd like to get semi-regular channel news and updates, you can do so by liking and following me on Facebook. If you'd like to become a supporter of my channel, you can do so by supporting me on Patreon. If you've got a replay like this one that you'd like to see featured on my channel, you can send it to my email. And if you'd like to watch me play World of Warships, among other games, live, you can follow me on Twitch. You can find the links for all of those in the video description down below. And as always, I'll see you next time. This is Captain Rye, signing off.